Welcome to the SuperStar Communicator podcast. My name is Susan Heaton-Wright, a leading impact, speaking and communications expert. My aim is to show you how to make an impact so you will be heard, listened to and respected for career success. Listen weekly to the podcast and go to our website, superstarcommunicator.com. Hello everybody, this is Susan Heaton-Wright from SuperStar Communicator. Thank you very much for tuning in today. As ever, I have found for you a truly inspirational, impactful, inspiring, have I said that before, guest for this episode. But before I introduce our guest, I wanted to say a little bit about SuperStar Communicator. Thank you very much for all of those people who follow me on LinkedIn, leave messages, have congratulated me for the recent awards that I have won. Thank you very much. I really, really appreciate it. And remember that you can find out more about what SuperStar Communicator is doing by downloading the 10 top tips to being a superstar communicator, because we will keep you in touch with other things that are going on. I will put the link for you to grab your copy of the 10 top tips, and then you can be part of the community and to find out more about all of the things that we're doing with individual coaching, masterclasses, lunch and learn, and of course workshops on everything communication. So let us get back to the interview today. I have known Christine MacKay for, 20 months. I met her at the House of Lords, as one does, because we were both named as inspirational female entrepreneurs. There's a F Entrepreneur 100 every year, and we were both two of those 100 that met just before lockdown at the House of Lords, and we got on well from the word go. Now, Christine is the CEO of Salamandra, which is an animation company. What is particularly inspiring and noteworthy is the fact that she is a woman in her 50s running a tech company, which typically is run, and everybody working in tech companies of this type are up to their 30s and mainly male. And here she is, a female leader in a male-dominated and young male-dominated industry, which makes it amazing. But since we did the interview, she has finally finished her book, which is being published at the end of November 2021, and I will make sure that there is a link to that in the notes so that you can purchase your own copy. It is called Animation Destination: How Smart Marketeers Convey Complex Messages Memorably. And in fact, this is a great summary of our interview, because I asked Christine lots of questions about animation and how it can enhance our communication. So sit back and enjoy. So Christine, welcome.
Thank you. Lovely to be here. Thanks, Susan.
Do you know, it's great because we've known each other for nearly a year, haven't we?
Indeed. It's flown past, really, hasn't it?
We were both named as inspirational female entrepreneurs in 2020, which was a huge honour.
It was indeed. It was a great cohort of ladies, I must say.
Absolutely. There are a number that have really inspired me, including yourself, Christine.
Oh, thank you. And ditto. And we had our sort of socially distant walk that lasted about 5 hours, where we talked about everything and put the world to rights, which was fantastic.
And I look forward to doing it again.
Indeed. Hopefully not quite so socially distant next time.
Yes, absolutely. So you are in animation.
Indeed.
What on earth made you go into this area of communication, dare I say it?
Well, I've always been a really visual person, and I think animation is a fantastic tool for business as well as entertainment, of course. And there's lots of stats to show that it sort of helps to, keep retention, not only engaging people, but making it memorable as well, which is quite important. Um, when I was a kid, I my first crush was a cartoon character called Marine Boy, believe it or not, and my sister and I used to fight over him. No, he's my boyfriend. No, he's my boyfriend. So from a very young age, I was quite how should I say, finding that animation was something that really kind of engaged me in lots of senses. But I think from a business perspective, it is an incredible tool. You can explain the most complex messages. You can be abstract. You can talk about very sensitive or taboo subjects. You can be genderless, culturalless, and really get that message across, whether it be for health and safety or HR induction, or there's so many elements where you can use animation where you can't really use film, or if you do use film, it has a very different effect. So with animation, you can create something, go back in history, go into the future, become an amoeba, go right inside the workings of an engine, or work and sort of show what it's like to work in confined spaces, which you can't do even with filming in those kind of situations. You could be, 10,000 leagues under the sea, literally, and showing how something works under there, to being up in space and, the next trip to the moon, and show how it works there as well without necessarily being there or filming in situ. So it's very malleable, and we're very lucky that in this climate we can work completely remotely. So and when once we've created a piece for our clients, it's also much easier to amend down the line without having to have a whole reshoot and get all the same actors back and the same sort of weather conditions, etc., etc. So from that perspective, it's fantastic. And as I say, being a very visual person, I work that way. In fact, even when I spell, I have to physically write it as an image in my head. Otherwise, I can't remember it. So I'm sure I'm not the only one who's very visual. So I think it's quite useful from that perspective.
It's really, really interesting. I mean, I've been doing a bit of research of animated information, for want of a better word, and when it's really done well, it's so powerful. But what happens when there are things moving around and somebody is narrating it? I found that sometimes the animation can distract me from the words.
I think done properly,
Mm.
and if you use expert animators, then I think it should be enhancing and not distracting. What,
Yes.
what we do, and I think we're experts at, is really understanding the business of our clients. Who they're talking to, what are those pain points to their target audiences, answering those pain points, making sure there's a call to action. But whenever we create something that it's not, as you say, distracting, or everything's considered. So if there's an element or something that's animated, it's done for a reason. So it's either to support something that's been said, or to actually help with the narrative. And we really have to understand what the business is about in order to create that narrative to begin with. But there's lots of different purposes for using animation. If I may list a few, if that's
Yes,
okay.
of course. Yes.
So I guess one great way of using animation, for example, is if you're doing talking heads. If you've got people that you want to interview, and so it's got to be people rather than animations, then what we can do is we can green screen behind you. We can support with motion graphics to whatever's being said, and that again supports the message rather than distracting, so that it stays in your long-term memory, and you kind of get it. And in fact, there's some really interesting stats around that. If you just using audio, people remember 10% of what you said 72 hours later. If you use just images, they remember 35% of what you said 72 hours later. But if you combine the two, it's 65%. I mean, that's absolutely bonkers. So it really goes to show that it really helps to sort of set it in your long-term memory. They say that text stays in your short-term memory and images stay in your long-term memory. So I always compare corporate animations to your visual jingle, and we all remember our jingles that we remember as children, as youngsters. We can still probably sing it, remember the brand, etc. So from the same perspective, animation works in that way. So that's number one. The other sort of way that we can use animation is obviously for presentations. More and more that we can't do face to face, we now animate presentations. So it could be animating a graph, it could be animating the entire presentation, which we do for a number of clients, where it's still clickable, but it feels more like a movie than slides. So you engage the audience by really illustrating what you're describing, what you're talking about. And again, it's supporting, not distracting. And then the third one, which is proving more and more popular because we can't be face to face, are the virtual conferences. So we've created virtual 3D auditoriums. We've created obviously these animated presentations, but we create multi-screens in these virtual auditoriums where, you know, all sorts of different things can happen. In the old days, pre-COVID, we created these international conferences for clients with lots and lots of different screens, including this stage that all animated, everything flowed into each other. And I think the biggest number of screens we had was 18 screens, including screens on the roof, screens on the stage, moving screens that were physically or manually pushed across, and then down the sides of the auditorium. So, you know, choreographing that and making it support what the speaker was saying takes some logistical sort of sortings out. And my team were amazing, and the client was really, really happy. So yeah, it's more about supporting than distracting.
It's enhancing, isn't it?
Yes, it's a good word to use. Yeah, definitely.
I would be interested to know your opinion on the slides that the government and the health department show with the COVID. Now, for listeners, we are still in lockdown in the United Kingdom, and there is a real laughter attached to the next slide, please, with all of this information on that you would need a PhD in statistics to be able to understand. How would you enhance that?
Well, first of all, give them the
give them the clicker.
allow them to share their screen rather than making it. It's so awkward. It's really very Mickey Mouse. Excuse the pun, thing is we're animation, but it really is inexcusable. It could be a lot slicker. You know, give them the driving seat if they need to. You know, just change share screens. There's so many bits of technology that can be used. There's no excuse for that, and it just comes across as very archaic and unpolished. It could be a lot more polished and a lot easier to do. So, I mean, if they came to us, we're visual problem solvers. We'd help them with that.
Anyone listening? It's
Indeed.
Salamandra that you need to go to.
Yeah, we help you convey your complex business messages and your political ones. So, yeah, absolutely. Come to salamandra.uk. We'll help you.
Now, moving swiftly on to the fact that you are working with a lot of people that are very technical and possibly a different age group with respect. Now you're looking at me.
What do you mean, Susan?
Well, I'm sure that I'm digging myself out of a hole here.
Yeah, a bit of backpedaling, please.
Yeah, pedaling away. Quite often the people that are delivering some of the technical work are of a different generation than you. Okay. How are you able to converse with them and make it mutually beneficial, the conversation, and also to the client?
Do you mean my team within Salamandra?
Yes.
Oh, right. I think age is just a number. I really don't think that it matters at all. I think if you stay up to date with what's required, if you're passionate about what you do, as I am, I absolutely love what we do. I honestly practically jump out of bed every morning. But I've been known to roly-poly out of bed as a bit of a dare from my team. But I don't think it really matters. I think if you've got a good team like I do, everyone can keep their finger on the pulse as to what's going on from a technical perspective. We all share what we've learned. We might find a shortcut or a new piece of kit or a new piece of software, and we're always developing and getting better and better. And where we can, we send people on courses to, learn new software, because it's constantly evolving.
Yes,
as it should, and that's why it's so exciting. Yes. That's one of the reasons why I love it, because it is constantly evolving, and you can't possibly get bored because you're constantly learning, or be, stand still. So honestly, Susan, I don't think age has got any sort of bearing really, as long as you're a good communicator. I mean, you could be any age and be a rubbish communicator and still wouldn't
Yeah.
work. I think it's about having that connection and trust within your team, having open conversations. We've got there's no such thing as a stupid question at
Yeah,
Salamandra
which
UK.
is brilliant.
Yeah, and quite frankly, I ask most of them. And it's people are allowed to make mistakes because that's how you learn, that's how you grow. And I really want a team that does look forward to coming to work and is excited. And I really firmly believe that if you're carrying on learning, you'll never get bored. And if you'll never get bored, hopefully you'll never leave. So
What an enlightening response. And for anybody listening, please don't put people into different generational boxes, because you never know the other person, what they might know, what passion that they have, and we learn from each other. Would you agree, Christine?
well, definitely. They say you should spend time with very young children and very old people. And I totally agree with that because they have completely different perspectives and wonderful stories. And, they say, what is it? Children laugh 300 times a day and we laugh up to maybe 10 or 20. It's quite sad, really, isn't it? I want to be around more kids.
Yeah, definitely. Part of the question that I asked earlier was how you're able to translate something very technical into a non-technical client so that they understand and trust you and you have credibility for them.
Well, we've been able to translate very complex messages into something more tangible, more understandable. For example, we've got a fund management company that we work with, and they've got very complex products. You mentioned technical; it is technical in a different way. Although we've worked with
Yes, yeah,
engineering
yeah.
and aeronautical firms and what have you, so really quite technical. And it just really, at the end of the day, depends on what they're trying to get across. And with that financial firm, for example, it took us about 2 or 3 calls, a meeting and a couple of calls with the brand manager to really understand the product because we're talking at IFA level, which is really quite technical.
Oh,
And
definitely.
until we understand the product, we can't do the narrative. So it took quite a while, and it took one of our team, Emma, who's very, very, very quick to understand most things. She's a real polymath, and she got it before any of us, and then explained it back to us to the point that one of their marketing team actually said, "God, you understand this product better than I do." And only then could we start the narrative. And then just to emphasize how amazing animation is for that particular project, for example, it was quite a dry subject, a lot to sort of take in, but we created all the visuals to take you through that narrative more easily and really get to understand it. Oh, right, that's what it does. Fantastic. But also, we never forget that with B2B, for us, it's H to H. It's not business to business, it's human to human. So
Yes.
we always try and add in some kind of element of either humanity or humor. And in that particular case, there was one scene where it talked about old age, and it showed an old gent sitting down into a wheelchair. But as he sat down, there was a little squeak sound that we added, which just adds a little bit of humor without taking away from the seriousness of the product at all. And it's little elements like that actually the team come up with. They've got fantastic sense of humor. In fact, I do laugh a lot at the office, and it's thanks to them. And it just makes everything lighter and more fun to be around, really. So you can be very, very technical. We for example, we do product explosions of very complex tools or pieces of equipment. And that again can be with call outs as to how these things work, or what are the benefits or what have you of certain parts of that product, and those can instantly tell somebody, oh my gosh, that's how it works, that's what it's all about, etc. And literally a picture will paint 1,000 words. In fact, if I can tell you another stat, Forrester's
Yes.
reckons that 60 seconds of film or animation is equivalent to a number of words if you had to describe everything you saw. So the animation, the narration, the feeling it gives you, the colors, the sound, the music, etc., etc. And it is a bonkers numbers of words. They reckon 60 seconds is equivalent to, wait for it, 1.8 million words.
That's incredible. But it makes sense, doesn't it? Because if it's done well
Yeah.
and it's all enhancing everything else, and we buy and we make decisions from emotion.
Yes, exactly. Business decisions and buying decisions. You're quite right. And in fact, speaking of emotion, we did a augmented reality campaign for a pharmaceutical company. Unfortunately, it's under NDA, so I can't give you too many
No, of
details.
course.
But it was an infant illness that we were trying to illustrate, so that the reps could show the clinicians, what happens, etc., etc. And we used AR for it, which means that you can, you download the QR code with your tablet or your phone.
Mhm.
And of course, now you don't need an app to do that. And then you can anchor the piece in your own environment, walk around it, etc., etc. Anyway, the client was actually very moved by it because being about, child illnesses, he's
Yes.
father himself, blah, blah, blah. And it really had an effect on him. In fact, the campaign was so popular that it started off in the UK. It then was translated to EMEA, went off to Asia Pacific, and then is global because it worked so well. So it can be very, it does appeal to your senses. It can be very immediate, put into your own environment in an AR sort of perspective. And it really has amazing results. So yeah, I can't sort of tell you enough how excited I am about how you can use animation in business as well as entertainment, of course.
Now, not all of the listeners today will have the budget for a very, very complex piece of animation. Do you have a tip for people in smaller businesses that might be thinking of one or two ways to add animation?
Of course, the simplest thing to do is to animate their logo, and then they can use that on their email signature, on their website, on their presentations, etc. And that is a lovely, and obviously on social media, it's a lovely way to bring your message to life because within a few seconds you can actually say quite a lot. I went to a animation festival in Cardiff a couple of years ago, and they had one section which was just a set of stories around 1 second of animation. I can't tell you how much you can pack into 1 second. It's unbelievable. A whole narrative in 1 second. So, I mean, obviously, for business, you might want a little bit longer. But so with what I'm saying is animating your logo can actually speak volumes just by itself. And there's other ways. You can create GIFs, which are short little animations of, say, 3 to 5 seconds that you can then use potentially as a series about a particular topic or services that you offer. Again, you can use them on social media or on your website in different sections, or on a electronic white paper, for example, where it can highlight different services or
Oh, that's a good
chapters.
idea.
Yeah, there's so many different ways of repurposing. And now, if you use QR codes and use our services for augmented reality, it can be used on printed material as well as on electronic, so websites or social media, and can be used on both the same campaign, which is quite fun. I mean, we've anchored augmented reality to people's business cards. We created animation of Hofhaus, the architects, their house coming to shape on top of your business card in
Yeah.
3D, and you can turn it around and have a look at it as it builds on. So you could do that with anything, a shoe or I don't know, putting together a piece of engineering. It's just people. We all love gimmicks. We all love something new, and we all love something that explains something quickly and is easily digestible because we're all time poor, got too much to take in, and at the end of the day, if there's a shortcut way of doing it, why not?
And it's memorable.
Yes, indeed. And that is a massive thing that it stays in your long-term memory. It's
Yes.
fantastic.
So we move on to 3 top tips for the listeners because I'm sure that people would love to know more about animation.
Sure. So, as I say, we work, our business is conveying complex messages for our B2B clients. And we're always trying to find the best way to get their message across. So the top tips would be, if you do have something that you want to convey verbally, as in auditorily or in writing, remember to support it with some kind of visual, whether it's a static or animated, doesn't matter, but the visual will help to bring up the memorability. So if it's static, maybe it's a illustration or an infographic. We also do, we create infographics and gifographics, which are infographics with little bits of animation all the way down. And you can extract those little bits of animations that you can then put onto social media as well. So, don't forget to support whatever you're saying or writing with images. Include animation in your marketing mix in whatever capacity you can, because we are attracted to something that's moving. We can't help it. For those of your audiences that have visuals, they'll see Sal, our mascot, in the background, which is a 3D animation. He does a little samba for you. And it never fails to make an impression. And people go, first of all, because he's quite still, first of all go, oh, I like your salamander. And then they go, oh my God, it moves, and then there's no way they're not going to remember that. So it's very, very memorable. And I guess number 3 is, find the best way to connect with your target audience and say what it is that is going to be important to them visually, as well as, with your wording or your voice. So, pick out what are the takeaways that they should have, and keep that as a sort of a visual as well as I say, writing or audio.
Absolutely fantastic tips. And I'm sure that people are going to want to find out more about you. So can you say a little bit about how people could contact you, whether they need your services because they're running a business, or whether they're just interested in your work?
Of course, they're very welcome to follow me on LinkedIn. It's Christine MacKay, MacKay, or they can have a look at our website, which is salamandra.uk. We can follow us on Twitter. Do follow us and like us. We also run a couple of meetup groups. We've got a pharmaceutical marketing meetup group and a tech and SaaS marketing meetup group, and that is where everyone shares stories and case studies of what worked well, and we have some fantastic speakers. In fact, we've got one on Wednesday if people want to join us, but those you can find on our website as well. Otherwise, if you want to send us an email, you can send it to hello@salamandra.uk, and we will get back to you as soon as we can. But yeah, do follow us, like us, go on our social media. We're on Facebook as well, and Instagram and various others. So lots of different ways of seeing us. We're also on Vimeo, but most of our information is on our website, so you should be able to have a look. It's quite comprehensive, and there's forms on there you can fill in, and we get back to you as well. So I do invite you to like and follow us or contact us at any time.
It sounds absolutely fantastic. I'm absolutely certain that there are people that are listening today that would want to know more about what you do, and explore that new area, really.
Well, they'd be very welcome. I'd love to talk to them, myself or any of my team, to be fair. But thanks, Susan, for this opportunity to really talk about my passion, which is animation.
And listeners, isn't it obvious that this really is Christine's passion?
Yeah, I'm very lucky to work at something which is almost like a hobby. So I do count my blessings every day.
Thank you so much for coming on and spending some time in your busy day.
Thanks, Susan. It's been fantastic.
So I hope you enjoyed that and were inspired by it. Remember that Christine's new book, Animation Destination, will be available at all good bookshops and online, and I will leave a link for you to be able to purchase your copy. And another reminder that if you want to grab your 10 top tips to being a superstar communicator, don't forget to look on the notes, and there is a link for you to register. So until next time, thank you very much for listening. You have been listening to the Superstar Communicator podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and review the podcast on iTunes and on apps. Please contact us if you want to discuss any topic, could suggest a topic for us to include, or a guest who could come onto the podcast. Go to superstarcommunicator.com.